After 15 years in special forces, I came home to find my wife working as help in the 12 million villa I bought. She didn't recognize me. I called my attorney. It was time for justice. You don't survive 15 years in an elite unit without learning how to stay calm when something is wrong. I knew something was wrong the moment I stepped through the gates of the estate. The house was worth $12 million, 12.4 to be exact. I bought it in 2009 with money I earned in places that don't show up on Google Maps, doing work that doesn't appear on any resume. It sat on 4 acres in Fairfield County, Connecticut, stone facade, 8 bedrooms, a circular driveway that could fit 12 cars. It was meant to be a safe harbor for my wife Sophia and our 2 children while I was deployed, a place where they could build a life while I kept them safe from a distance. I returned without warning, no calls, no emails, no announcements. I wanted to see my family before the world touched them again, before I had to become someone else for the next mission, before the weight of what I did for a living settled back onto my shoulders. The guard at the gate didn't recognize me. He was new, young, early 20s, wearing a private security uniform that looked freshly pressed. He checked his tablet twice, scrolling through what I assumed was an authorized visitor list. Name? He asked. Commander Garrett Sullivan, I said. This is my house. He looked up slowly, confused. Sir, I don't have you listed. Call the main house. Tell them I'm here. He did. Someone answered. He spoke quietly, glanced at me twice, then hung up. You're cleared to proceed, sir. That alone told me everything had changed. I'd built this security system myself. Biometric scanners, facial recognition, multi-layer verification protocols. The fact that none of it recognized me meant someone had wiped me from the system entirely. I drove the rental car up the driveway, parked near the fountain, and walked toward the front entrance. The gardens looked immaculate, too immaculate. Every hedge trimmed to exactness, every flower bed geometrically perfect. It looked like a property staged for sale, not a home where children lived. Inside, the house felt sterile, perfectly clean, emotionless, cold. The marble floors gleamed under recessed lighting. Not a single family photo on the walls. No backpacks by the stairs. No shoes kicked off near the door. It looked like a museum. Then I heard the sound of a mop sliding across marble, the quiet splash of water being wrung out. A woman stepped into view wearing a gray cleaning uniform, hair pulled back, face down, focused on the floor. She moved efficiently, methodically, the way someone moves when they've done the same task 1,000 times. It took me 3 seconds to recognize my own wife. Sophia, I said. She looked up, startled. Her eyes went wide but stayed empty. Not the emptiness of someone who didn't care, the emptiness of someone who had learned not to react. Sir, she replied softly. That word cut deeper than any blade I'd carried in hostile territory. I opened my mouth to respond, but before I could speak, 2 teenagers appeared at the top of the staircase, my children. Olivia was 16 now, tall, polished, wearing designer clothes I didn't recognize. Her hair was styled perfectly, her posture rigid. She looked like a young woman who had learned to carry herself with authority. Nathan was 14, broader than I remembered. His face had lost its softness. He wore expensive sneakers and held a phone in one hand, barely glancing up as he descended the stairs. They looked at Sophia the way you look at hired help, present but irrelevant, necessary but invisible. Dad, Olivia said sharply, as if I'd broken a rule by coming home unannounced. Nathan didn't even look at me. His eyes stayed on his phone. She's working, he muttered. She's not supposed to talk to guests. Sophia lowered her eyes immediately. Her shoulders curled inward, making herself smaller. In that moment, anger didn't rise. Understanding did. I stepped past my children without a word, walked into the study on the first floor, closed the door, and pulled out my phone. I made one call. Richard, I said to my attorney. My voice was steady, controlled. I'm standing in my house. My wife doesn't recognize me as her husband. My children treat her like she doesn't exist. It's time. Richard Holloway had been my lawyer for 12 years. Former JAG attorney, 48 years old, practiced family and estate law in Manhattan. He'd handled my will, my property acquisitions, my deployment paperwork. He knew exactly what I meant when I said it was time. He didn't ask what happened. He only said, I'll start the process. Don't confront anyone yet. Document everything. I spent the next 2 hours observing. Sophia moved through the house like a ghost. She cleaned the kitchen. She organized the pantry. She folded laundry in the utility room with mechanical precision. At one point, Olivia walked past her and dropped a wet towel on the floor without looking. Pick that up, Olivia said. Sophia did. Without hesitation, without protest. Nathan came into the kitchen and opened the refrigerator. Where's the imported sparkling water? He asked, no one in particular. I'll get it, sir, Sophia said quietly. Sir. My 14-year-old son was called Sir by his own mother. I watched my mother arrive around 3 in the afternoon. She drove a black Mercedes SUV and parked like she owned the place, which, technically, I was beginning to realize she might. Eleanor Sullivan, 64 years old, former corporate attorney. The kind of woman who wore pearls to breakfast and treated every conversation like a negotiation. She'd always been controlling, always believed she knew better than everyone else, but I never thought she'd do this. She walked into the house carrying designer shopping bags and didn't acknowledge Sophia at all. Garrett, she said when she saw me. Cool, measured. You didn't mention you were coming. I didn't realize I needed permission to enter my own home. She smiled. That polite, empty smile she'd perfected over decades. Of course not. I'm just surprised. You usually coordinate. Where's Sophia? Sophia. Who? My wife. My mother glanced toward the kitchen where Sophia was preparing coffee. Oh, she's working. The children prefer not to be disturbed during her tasks. Her tasks? Yes, she's been very helpful with household management. I felt my jaw tighten. We need to talk. Privately. Of course. We stepped into the study. I closed the door. What did you do? I asked. My mother sat down in the leather chair behind the desk, my desk, and crossed her legs. I managed a difficult situation while you were gone. Someone had to. Managed. Sophia was struggling. The children needed stability. I stepped in. By doing what exactly? By ensuring the household ran properly. By protecting the children's inheritance. By making sure she understood her responsibilities. Her responsibilities as what? As someone who needs to earn her place here. The words hung in the air like smoke. This is her home, I said quietly. This home is held in a family trust. The trustee makes decisions in your absence. That trustee is me. There it was. I'd set up the trust years ago as a protective measure, in case something happened to me overseas, in case I didn't come back. The trustee was supposed to ensure Sophia and the children were cared for, not controlled, not erased. I want to speak with Sophia, I said, alone. She's working. Now. I found Sophia in the laundry room, folding towels with the kind of precision that comes from fear of getting it wrong. Sophia, I said gently. She glanced up, then toward a camera mounted in the corner near the ceiling. I have tasks to complete, she said. I'm your husband. Her hands stopped moving. Her eyes filled with something I couldn't quite read. Confusion. Fear. Hope buried so deep it was almost invisible. Please, I said. Just talk to me. She hesitated, then nodded. We walked outside to the garden, away from the cameras, away from the house. That's when she finally broke. They told me you were gone, she whispered. That you weren't coming back. Your mother said the mission went wrong. That you didn't survive. My chest tightened. She said she would protect the children if I cooperated, Sophia continued. If I signed some documents, if I accepted certain terms. What terms? That I would work, that I would stay quiet, that I would accept responsibility for things I didn't do. She explained it slowly, painfully, like someone describing a car accident they survived but don't fully understand. How documents were placed in front of her while she was exhausted, grieving, isolated. How accusations appeared the moment she questioned missing funds from the household accounts. How a theft report existed before anything actually went missing. How my mother offered to make everything disappear. The accusations, the police involvement, the threat of losing custody if Sophia worked, stayed quiet, and accepted her new role. They said if I behaved, Sophia said, voice shaking, I could stay near the kids. That if I caused trouble, they'd prove I was unstable. That they'd take Olivia and Nathan somewhere I'd never find them. That was when I understood the cruelty wasn't physical. It was systematic. It was designed to erase Sophia without anyone noticing, to turn her into something invisible, to make my children forget she was their mother. How long? I asked. 3 years. 3 years. I'd been deployed in classified operations for most of that time. Limited communication. Encrypted channels only. I'd sent messages through secure military networks, but I never received responses. I assumed Sophia was protecting operational security by keeping quiet. I never imagined someone was intercepting everything. I kept records, Sophia said suddenly. I didn't know what else to do, so I kept everything. What kind of records? Documents they made me sign. Emails with altered dates. Transaction records showing money moved from accounts I never accessed. Notes about conversations. Photographs of the children being coached on what to say about me. She pulled out her phone. An old model, cracked screen. She opened a hidden folder containing hundreds of files. I didn't know if anyone would ever believe me, she said, but I couldn't let them erase the truth completely. I looked at the files, dates, times, screenshots, audio recordings, everything. You did good, I said. You did exactly right. She started crying. Not the quiet, controlled kind. The kind that comes when someone realizes they might finally be safe. I called Richard again that night. I need you to file emergency motions immediately, I said. I'm sending you documentation now. I forwarded Sophia's files. All of them. Richard called back 23 minutes later. Garrett, this is beyond family court. This is criminal. I know. Your mother fabricated evidence. She coerced your wife into servitude. She manipulated minors. This is fraud, identity theft, false imprisonment. I know, I said again. What do? We document everything tonight. Tomorrow morning I file for emergency custody modification, dissolution of the trust and restraining orders. I'm also contacting the state attorney's office. Do it. And Garrett, yeah, your children don't know the truth. When this comes out, it's going to destroy the world they think they understand. I know. Are you ready for that? I looked through the study window at Sophia sitting alone in the kitchen, drinking coffee with hands that still shook. I'm ready. The next morning I sat down with Olivia and Nathan. They looked annoyed that I'd interrupted their routines. Olivia had a tennis lesson. Nathan had a tutoring session. We need to talk about your mother, I said. She's not our mother, Olivia said immediately. She's staff. Who told you that? Grandmother explained it. Mom left. She couldn't handle being a parent. This woman is just someone who helps around the house. Nathan nodded. She's unstable. Grandmother said we should be kind but keep distance. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. Your mother didn't leave, I said carefully. Her name is Sophia. She's been here the entire time. That's not true, Olivia said. I remember Mom leaving. I remember Grandmother explaining what happened. What do you remember specifically? She hesitated. I remember being told. Grandmother showed us documents, proof that Sophia was hired to help and then tried to steal from us. Did you see her steal anything? Olivia's confidence wavered. No, but grandmother said, what did grandmother show you? Silence. Nathan shifted uncomfortably. Papers, official-looking stuff. Did you read them? I was 11. I pulled out my phone and showed them a photograph. Sophia holding Olivia as a newborn. The date stamp clear in the corner. This is your mother, I said. Sophia Rodriguez Sullivan. She married me in 2006. She gave birth to you, Olivia, in 2009. And you, Nathan, in 2011. She's been in this house since the day we bought it. Olivia stared at the photo. Her face went pale. I showed them more. Family photos, medical records, birth certificates. Grandmother said. Olivia's voice trailed off. Grandmother lied, I said, and I'm going to prove it. My mother arrived with her attorney at noon. Gregory Ashford, 62 years old, partner at a white shoe law firm in Greenwich. Expensive suit, calm demeanor, the kind of lawyer who specialized in making problems disappear. Garrett, my mother said smoothly. I understand you've been upsetting the children with stories. Stories, I repeated. Yes. Sophia has clearly manipulated you. This is why we established the trust. To protect against exactly this kind of— Stop, I said. Just stop. Richard arrived 30 seconds later, carrying a briefcase that looked heavier than usual. Mrs. Sullivan, Richard said. Mr. Ashford, I'm serving you with emergency motions filed this morning with the Connecticut Superior Court. He handed them formal documents. My mother's attorney scanned them quickly. His expression didn't change. This is unnecessary, Ashford said. We can resolve this through mediation. Your client fabricated evidence of theft against Sophia Sullivan, Richard said. She created false police reports, manipulated bank records, and coerced a vulnerable person into involuntary servitude. We have documentation, alleged documentation, time-stamped, metadata verified, authenticated documentation, Richard continued, including emails from Mrs. Eleanor Sullivan's personal account discussing the creation of false theft accusations before any alleged crime occurred. My mother's face went rigid. Ashford's jaw tightened. That's impossible. It's in the filing, Richard said, along with recordings of conversations where Mrs. Sullivan instructed others on what to tell the children about their mother, and financial records showing systematic diversion of household funds to accounts she controlled. Where did you get— Mrs. Sophia Sullivan maintained comprehensive records over 3 years, Richard said. Every document you forced her to sign, every conversation you had within her hearing, every instruction you gave while believing she was too broken to fight back. The room fell silent. Furthermore, Richard continued, I've contacted the Connecticut State Attorney's Office. They're reviewing the materials for potential criminal charges. My mother finally spoke. This is absurd. I was protecting my grandchildren. You erased their mother and enslaved her in her own home, Richard said flatly. There's no protection in that. Ashford stood. We'll contest every allegation. You're welcome to try, Richard said. The emergency hearing is tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Judge Patricia Montalvo presiding. She has reviewed the preliminary evidence and granted temporary restraining orders effective immediately. He handed more papers. Mrs. Eleanor Sullivan, you are barred from contact with Olivia and Nathan Sullivan. You are barred from the property at 47 Riverside Drive. You are barred from accessing any accounts related to the family trust. Violations will result in immediate arrest. My mother's hands shook as she held the papers. This is my family, she whispered. No, I said. This is mine, and you tried to destroy it. The emergency hearing was held the next morning at Stamford Superior Court. Judge Patricia Montalvo was 56 years old, 22 years on the bench, known for cutting through procedural nonsense and focusing on facts. She sat behind the bench reviewing a file that had grown to nearly 300 pages overnight. My mother's attorney argued that Sophia had manipulated me, that I'd been away too long to understand the household dynamics, that the trust was functioning exactly as designed. Then Richard presented the evidence. Exhibit A, an email from my mother to her personal assistant dated April 17th, 3 years prior. Draft police report for theft. Amount should be significant enough to justify custody concerns, but not so large it requires formal prosecution. We need leverage, not charges. The date was 5 days before anything allegedly went missing. Judge Montalvo looked up slowly. Mr. Ashford, your client drafted a theft accusation before the alleged crime? Ashford shuffled papers. That's taken out of context. What context justifies pre-drafting a police report? Silence. Exhibit B, bank records showing systematic transfers from household accounts to an LLC controlled by my mother. 68 transfers over 30 months. Total, $487,000. Mrs. Sullivan, Judge Montalvo said. Can you explain these transactions? Estate management fees, my mother said. Compensation for my time. The trust agreement specifies no management fees, Richard said, and none of these transfers were disclosed to the beneficiaries or co-trustees. Exhibit C, recordings. Richard played audio of my mother coaching Olivia and Nathan on what to say about Sophia, teaching them to call her staff, explaining that their real mother had abandoned them. You need to understand, children, that she chose to leave. She wasn't strong enough to be a mother. It's sad, but some people just aren't capable. Olivia's voice, younger, confused, but she's still here. No, darling, that's just someone who works for us now. She looks similar, but it's not the the same person. Your real mother is gone. The courtroom went silent. Judge Montalvo closed her folder. Mr. Ashford, I've seen many things in family court. Custody disputes, financial disagreements, genuine confusion about what's best for children. This is not that. She turned to my mother. Mrs. Sullivan, you fabricated criminal accusations to gain leverage over your daughter-in-law. You systematically stole from accounts held in trust for your grandchildren. You manipulated those grandchildren into rejecting their mother through calculated psychological abuse. My mother opened her mouth. Nothing came out. You created documentation designed to make Sophia Sullivan appear incompetent and dangerous. You coerced her into servitude through threats of losing her children. You erased her identity in her own home. Judge Montalvo leaned forward. This is not guardianship. This is theft dressed as care. This is abuse disguised as protection. She turned to the court clerk. Protective orders are extended indefinitely. The family trust is dissolved effective immediately. All assets revert to Commander Garrett Sullivan and Sophia Sullivan as joint owners. Mrs. Eleanor Sullivan is barred from contact with the minor children pending criminal investigation. All transferred funds will be frozen and subject to civil recovery. My mother stood, shaking. Your Honor, please. Furthermore, Judge Montalvo continued, I'm referring this matter to the state attorney for review of potential charges including fraud, theft, false reporting, identity theft, and custodial interference. She looked at Sophia, who sat quietly beside me. Mrs. Sullivan, you're free to return to your home with full authority. Your children will receive family therapy to address the manipulation they've experienced, and I'm deeply sorry for what you've endured. Sophia nodded, tears streaming down her face. Judge Montalvo turned back to my mother. You had every advantage, education, resources, legal knowledge, and you used all of it to torture someone who couldn't fight back. That's not family. That's predation. Court adjourned. Outside the courthouse, Olivia stood near the car, staring at Sophia like she was seeing a ghost. Mom? She asked quietly. Her voice was small, uncertain. Sophia nodded. Yes, sweetheart, it's me. They told us. I know, Sophia said. It's not your fault. Nathan followed a second later, slower, his face flushed with shame. I called you staff, he whispered. I treated you like you were told lies, Sophia said gently, by someone you trusted. That's not on you. But I should have known you were a child, Sophia said, and I never stopped loving you. Not for 1 second. Olivia collapsed into Sophia's arms, sobbing. Nathan joined them a moment later. I stepped back, giving them space. My mother appeared at the courthouse entrance with her attorney. She looked smaller somehow, diminished. She walked toward me, leaned close, and whispered, This isn't finished. I didn't look at her. It is, I said quietly. You just don't know it yet. The investigation that followed was quiet but thorough. Forensic accountants traced every diverted dollar, every forged signature, every carefully constructed lie. They found shell companies, offshore accounts, a systematic pattern of theft that dated back to the first month I deployed overseas. The state attorney's office filed criminal charges 3 weeks later. Fraud, theft, false reporting, custodial interference. Each charge supported by mountains of documentation that Sophia had quietly, desperately preserved. My mother's attorney called Richard begging to settle. Richard replied with 2 words. Too late. The trial lasted 6 days. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. Guilty on all counts. Sentencing was set for 2 months later. 6 months after I first walked through those gates, I sat in the garden with Sophia while Olivia and Nathan played basketball on the court we'd built when they were younger. They were healing. Slowly. Therapy helped. Time helped. Honesty helped. Sophia's hand found mine. I never thought we'd get here, she said. Where? Home. I looked at the house. Our house. Finally, ours again. She almost won, Sophia said quietly. Almost doesn't count. What made you realize? When you first walked in, I thought about it. You called me sir, and I knew that word didn't belong in your mouth. She smiled. Sad, but real. What happens to her? Sophia asked. She goes to prison. Probably minimum security. 3 to 5 years if the judge is lenient. And after? She'll try to rebuild. She'll tell people she was misunderstood. She'll find someone to blame. You? Probably. Sophia was quiet for a moment. Does that bother you? I watched Olivia sink a 3-pointer. Watched Nathan laugh. Watched them be kids again. No, I said, because the strongest revenge isn't making someone hurt the way they hurt you. What is it? Becoming someone who no longer needs the people who once had power over you. Sophia squeezed my hand. We're free, she said, and for the first time in 3 years, she was right. The investigation that followed was quiet but thorough. Forensic accountants traced every diverted dollar, every forged signature, every carefully constructed lie. And when my mother's lawyer called 3 weeks later begging to settle, Richard replied with 2 words that ended 15 years of control in a single breath. Too late.